When it comes to hiring, don't go searching for the one. Just meet your match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/match. Just go to Indeed.com/match right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/match. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites, like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies, like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee for your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a beverage from 450 North Brewing, the official beverage of the Indy 11 Coaches Show. Now, let's get an inside look at the players, tactics, and opponents with Indy 11 head coach Sean McAuley.
Welcome back to another edition of the Indy 11 Coaches Show podcast. Along with Sean McAuley, as always, I am Ian Gilmore. Thanks for joining us for episode number 7. We're into the month of September. We're going to talk a little bit about the month of August. But instead of going game by game like we usually do, we're kind of just going to hit some talking points this week. Before we do that, right off the bat, we're getting towards October, and that means Oktoberfest is hitting the shelves. We want you to try the 450 North Brewing Oktoberfest. Marzen-style lager. Usually we have the fruity drinks or the slushy double XLs. This week, we've got the Oktoberfest to get you ready for fall. Sean, there's nothing I like more than a Saturday morning Oktoberfest, so this is right up my alley this week.
Good.
All right, let's get right into it. I think the headline is kind of, since we've last done this, the results haven't been what you want, what anyone has really wanted. 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses in the league, and along with that loss to Kansas City in the Open Cup. People see results and they'll throw their opinions at the wall and everything. But from inside, from your perspective, how would you kind of assess the run of form in the past month or so?
Yeah, the run of form's been probably similar to the results, up and down. We've not been good enough to get the results, and that's the top and bottom of it. In terms of performances, I think the players have given the maximum effort, and when they do that, you can't really complain. So then you look at, why is it? And maybe it's because, that's where we are as a group. We need to improve the group if we want to compete at the very top. And, you can see the top now separating themselves from everybody else. And we're in the everybody else bracket, but we need to try and get to the top of that everybody else bracket. And that's the next step to try and get there and sustain that, to then go again and try and get with the group leaders.
It hasn't. It definitely hasn't looked the same from week to week. Lately, I think part of that due to injury, part of that due to the Open Cup run, part of that due to players coming in and going out. I'm curious about how you feel the group has kind of adjusted to kind of the craziness and the non-normalness that is kind of it's been a season-long thing almost, but especially recently.
The players know exactly where I stand, because even when we were winning games and went on that run, I kept saying to everybody, we're not playing well. We can play better. So it might look different. It doesn't look that much different to me.
Yeah. From the run?
Yeah. The results we got in the run, you would look and say, well, we were a bit fortunate in a few of them. The group needs to improve. We've said that right from day one. We'll improve the group, and year on year, the team needs to improve. And we feel as though we're trying to get, the players around it and new players in to try and make the group improve, because all season we've had some good results, some great results, but when I look at performance and when I look at everything else, there's been a few games where we have completely dominated, but then the other games where we've won games, we've probably won because of our effort and commitment, which is absolutely fantastic. But eventually, you need a bit of quality to take you over the line or to take you to the next step.
When you say improve the group, how much do you balance? When you say that, are you balance like what's the balance between bringing better players in and developing the ones you've got?
You got to do both. That's and that's no disrespect to anybody. Football moves very, very, very quickly, and I don't know for sure statistically, because obviously I wasn't part of the USL previously, but if Indy 11's only had one playoff game in 4 years, then there's a reason, and we've got to make sure that we improve on that, and we want to be a playoff team every year. We want to host playoff games. We want to get to the top of where we can get to. But that's not going to be by shutting our eyes and saying, I hope it comes all right next week, or I hope we'll be okay next season. We've got to have some, clear standards that we need to set ourselves, and some clear, metrics on what we want to recruit for the team, because I would say that the USL has got better across the board. Partly because the MLS Next Pro is not hit off as the way it should do. So the players who were maybe considering that route of MLS Next Pro, and maybe did that with the when the USL had the second teams of the MLS in, I think they've realised that's probably not been as competitive. So them players now are choosing not to go that route and come into the USL, which then makes the USL stronger and more difficult to compete in. So we've got to, like I said, not shut our eyes and hope that we get better. We've got to actively, do it on the training field, do it with our academy, and like I said, Logan coming in, and do it with recruitment and people coming in from different avenues.
There's definitely no better a test to see where your group is at than playing against a top MLS side like we did in the Open Cup. Sporting Kansas City gave you their strongest lineup, gave you their best for 90 minutes. Do you think there was a world where on that Tuesday night you could have won? What would it have taken?
Yeah, and this is a good sort of platform now for us to share my thoughts on the game.
Yeah.
And the preparation for the game. If we were going to go into there and score the first goal, that first goal is either going to have to come in the very last 5 or 10 minutes of the game, and for us to hang on, because if it comes early, we'd be hanging on for 85 minutes. Kansas City have only had one game where they've not scored a goal at home this season. In every defeat they've scored a goal. They had one defeat where they scored 3 goals. I couldn't see us scoring 4.
Would have taken something special.
So in my mind, in preparation for the game and speaking to the players, we had to be prepared for them to score. And whatever it was 1 and 2-0, I always knew that we had a chance to get back into the game. If we'd have scored early, that could have been dangerous for us, because they would have, shown their teeth and come after us. I also know that the ability of the team in terms of Kansas, when they do get up, they like to keep the ball a lot, which I wasn't concerned with, because they can keep the ball a lot as long as they don't score. And I knew that going into the last 15 minutes, if it was still 2-0, we would have a chance, because if you score 1, the momentum shifts quickly, then you get to extra time and it's a completely different game. So whatever the game was always in reach of us, which I think 2-0 is still in reach, I was quite comfortable. At half-time, I said to them, we're in a good spot. Let's go out and, keep it tight and, not give anything away and take your chances when they come. Expecting us to, get to around that 60-minute mark, 75-minute, where we'd be pushing even more players forward. But credit to the players, they went out at the start of the second half and had a couple of chances, and I think they smelt then that they had a chance of, getting an earlier goal, and they were quite dominant in the performance in the second half, which I was really pleased with. And we just didn't put the chances away that we had, and when you don't score your chances, then it's really difficult. And I say that not in a negative mindset of not worrying about being 2-0 down against Kansas. I'd worry if we were 2-0 down against LAFC. because LAFC go for the third and then the fourth and the fifth. But I knew that if we could, allow them to have their possession while being, down in the game, I still wasn't that worried, knowing that if we had, the 30 minutes, even the last 15 minutes to try and get one goal back, the momentum could shift. It would have been completely unrealistic of us, and I've spoke to people about this. Why don't you play like that in the first half, and then, you maybe could go in, up? My answer to that, and experience of playing these games, and obviously experience of being in football, but my answer to that is, if we went and tried to take the game to them and opened ourselves up, but, went aggressively for them from minute one, if it doesn't work and we come in at half-time, what do we say to the players? Whereas my plan was, don't worry if we get down, let them, have their possession of the ball and we'll be fine, and we'll go for it later on in the game. So then, knowing at half-time when we were 2-0 down, I could change things for the positive. If we'd have gone the other way around, and I'm saying to them, do even more of what you've just done, and we're 2-0 down, I don't think you get buy-in from the players.
Another night, too, I think in the second half, one of those shots goes in.
Yeah.
Whether it's Jack's from the edge of the 18, Augie's off the post.
Yeah.
There was some of those where it's like, oh, man, I just don't know if it's going to happen tonight.
Yeah. And again, going back to, what we're here for, we're here to represent the club. And I think we did that in a positive manner. And even the penalty save at the end was something for our supporters to cheer about, So overall, disappointed we didn't get to the final. Really pleased about the run that we had in it. And, a bit disappointed not to come away with, at least another positive outside of the penalty save, maybe a goal that could have taken it a little bit further.
Yeah. One thing, too, is obviously there was no goals to shout about. There was the penalty save. I think back to, I went to England to watch Newcastle against Man United in the Carabao Cup final in 2023. Same scoreline, 2-0 to Man United, but it was still such a good experience, and the memories were great. And I'm sure that a lot of the fans will carry those with them for a while. And I think part of that, too, that you can kind of go away, one, knowing that the players gave it all, but two, having hope that you can get back there. Like, there's reasons to believe from what you've seen that you can get back there. So it's kind of that knowing it's not like the finality isn't really there, I think makes those memories even greater. So thank you for giving that to the fans and to us as well, the people that work in the front office and behind the scenes as well, because those are some memories that I won't forget for a while either.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to experience in football. It's good. We saw the other side of it, and I thought the players, what we need to do is use that as fuel now to get towards the end of the season. And when you talk about the month and the games and all that, yeah, we've been on a pretty bad, not a strong run. And somebody asked me the question, do you think it's the Open Cup? And I wouldn't change it for the world. So we sent a squad and we kept 5 or 6 players behind when we went to Vegas. If we weren't in the league, in the Open Cup, we would have travelled with them players, which might have given us a different result in Vegas. Having got back in the early hours of the morning on Wednesday morning, and then knowing that the week's a little bit choppy of preparation for our game on Saturday, if that preparation was different, maybe the result on Saturday could have been different.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't change it. So I would always go and prioritise giving us a chance to get to the final, even though it probably did have some impact in the 2 league games, either side of the semi. And when you look at it, the other semi-final between LAFC and Seattle, both of them teams lost at the weekend as well. So, you'd very rarely see LAFC lose at home, to Houston. And obviously Seattle went down to Portland, and the game was in Seattle, so you think that they would have a decent preparation. It's a short trip to Portland, but again, got beat against Portland Timbers. So the magnitude of the game, knowing that it's a semi-final, getting to the final, can take a lot out of players, even at the MLS level. It's happening. So for us, it was tough, either side of it, but I wouldn't swap it. I'd always continue to go try and get to the final.
Yeah, agreed. I think you've got a lot of people that'll be on the same side of that as well. So that next game at the weekend was Pittsburgh. we had, I think, a couple conversations with Mark Lowry when he was here about it. A lot of people and coaches have talked about kind of the weird nature of this league when you play against 10 men, and the difficulties associated with that. You talked at the weekend after that game about, usually you'll break them down eventually, especially if you have 85 minutes to do it. What kind of didn't happen that led to it being a 1-1 result instead of 3 points that night?
A great play from them. When we looked at the game back, every time the ball was in our attacking third, their defending third, they had minimum 7 players in the penalty box. So there was no space to create. What we could have done is maybe take some more 1-versus-1 situations in around the edge of the box. We could have encouraged the players a little bit more. We told them to, be patient and try and work your way in to create a proper goal scoring opportunity. But when that's not on, the players can have a shot from distance, and you never know, it might be a rebound, it might be a deflection. We just didn't get as many attempts at goal that I thought, but that's credit to the opposition. I also think the ball moved slowly across the field, and when the ball moves slowly, it allows the opposition to get set in their defensive shape. If the ball would move quicker on the turf, then I think that might have given us more of a chance to shift and unbalance the opponent before they could get their 7 players in the box. A lot of time, like I said, it was 7 players in the box, 1 player pressing it and 1 player high, waiting for a counter-attack, and we couldn't break it down. Maybe like I said, the speed of the ball movement wasn't as quick as what we needed it to be, and also that 1-versus-1 or shots from distance, we could have probably taken a few more opportunities at. But all in all, credit to the opposition, and like I said straight after the game, don't underestimate the value of a point at this time of the season, knowing now that Pittsburgh have 7 games left. If we win 2 more games, that in their 7, they have to get 11 points. 3 wins and 2 draws in 7 is tough.
Yeah.
They're in 9th. So that's where that point gets you. It takes another step towards what we want to achieve in terms of the end of the season.
Yeah. I didn't even think about this until you said it post-game, though, but even us getting a point, but taking 2 away from them, especially with the positions in the league. And, you've got North Carolina coming up, Hartford coming up, the 2 teams behind them that are still trying to stay in it as well.
And that's the same situation.
Yeah. Romario Williams scored the winner that night. He has had a tough go of it. He missed some big chances, mainly against New Mexico. On the outside, when you see those things happen, you kind of start wondering how much can you play him. But clearly the confidence and the trust in him from you and the coaching staff has paid off. And you can just you could see it in his face and his manner after the game. Because I talked to him after the game, doing the post-game interviews. And it's not that he doesn't smile a lot, but the smile was a little bit different after that game. All of that kind of brings me to this. Everyone on the outside, can say whatever they want about team decisions without consequence. Yours have all the consequences. So how, and maybe at what point did you sort of develop the conviction and the confidence in all of your choices that you make as a manager and as a coach?
Decision making, obviously, everything, the book stops with the coach to pick the team.
Yeah.
And what goes into that decision, a lot of different things in terms of current form, the balance of the team, the opponent you're playing against, the relationships that they have within the team, who can play alongside somebody else, and it sort of gives that balance where they both help each other in sort of their performance, like cover each other's weaknesses and things like that. Ultimately, it comes down to effort, hard work, and Romario has put the effort and the hard work in, along with all the other players. And then the decision at the end for the weekend's game was just a quick overview of it. Augustine and Dougie had played in midweek, so Romario was the fresh legs. I played Dougie, knowing that he's going into international duty, so kept Augie on the bench, and so that it's not just a here and now moment, and there's never no real emotion that goes into picking the team. It's very much business of what do we need. So what I didn't want to do is risk injury for Augustine going into that game, having played the Tuesday game, knowing that we were losing Dougie as well at the weekend. So it's a balance of all them different things, but it's easier probably to explain why they don't play, and that will be because of effort and commitment. 2 quick things I said to the players at the start of the season. Performance and attitude will keep you at the club. If one of them is not there, the one I'm choosing is attitude. If your performance is not there but you've got a good attitude, you've got a good chance of staying. If your performance is there and your attitude's not there, you're not staying. And if you've got both, then we've got a decent squad. That's simple enough.
Yeah, it is. We've made a couple transactions in the last week, 2 weeks. Wondering if you kind of can pull the curtain back on a few of them. Want to start with Malik Foster, and I think behind the scenes it was probably different, but at least from my perspective, it seemed like that came around and got over the line relatively quickly, especially with a player of his caliber. Can you kind of tell me how it was behind the scenes?
We'd identified Malik a long time ago as somebody that I think would do well for us. The situation that in his previous club, I'm not fully aware of, but I just know that there was an opportunity to get him, and because we'd talked about him months previously, as a target for us moving forward, if ever he came available, as soon as he came available, we acted really quickly, and that's credit to, Greg, Ursel, and everybody else who give us the go ahead to do these signings, do these things. So I must give credit to Greg and Ursel on that they allow us to say yes really quickly. But in the background of that, we'd identified him a long time ago. And my knowledge of him, so the reason why I liked him is because we tried to sign him at Minnesota United when he was with Sacramento. So we knew he'd got qualities that would be good for our team. And then obviously when it came available, we acted really quickly and got it over the line. So really pleased about that one.
You said, I think the first time we sat down and talked about him, right after you signed him, you said you wanted him to score more goals. How are you going to go about working with him to accomplish that?
Everybody needs to score more goals, and the easiest thing, people say, well, how do you get people to score goals? And they've got to get in the right area to start with, and that's you can do so much in terms of practice and training and how it relates to the game. But if 80% of goals are scored from a certain area in the box, if you don't get in there, then you're not going to score many goals. So it's about him recognising where we want him on the field when that final touch is happening. Because the more times he gets in there, the more and has attempts at goal, the more of them are going to go in at the back of the net.
Luckily, Malik can get to any spot quite quickly.
Yeah,
his pace is blistering. Even just watch him in training, it's good. Another one is Hayden White. We saw him at the weekend for the first time. He comes over for England. Most recently played with Ebbsfleet. A lot of people have had their go at this question. I'm curious to kind of have your take on it. How would you equate the level of our American leagues, MLS and USL, to the leagues over there that sometimes players come from? League One, League Two, National League.
Difficult to equate, and I wouldn't want to have that job of doing that. I think there's a company out there that does it based on stats. When we were talking, got asked this question multiple times when I was in the MLS, what does it equate to? And I would say a lot of the MLS players could go and play in the Championship and Premier League. I think if an MLS team went across and had to do the grind of the Championship and the Premier League week in, week out, I think they'd struggle. But I think every individual player could go and play in. Yeah. They're good enough to play in it. And I think you've got to look at the players that leave, not the ones that come over here, but the players that leave here and go there, just on how well they adapt. In different leagues are. If you look at Aronson at Leeds United, he's played in the Premier League, so that's great, and he was successful, and now he's playing in the Championship, and there's no real difference. He's still the player that he is. So it's really difficult to say, how far somebody can go. And then if you were to look at players coming from I only know the UK, and they come across and do really well in the US. They might not have be household names in the UK, but they can come here and make themselves a really good name for themselves. I'm thinking about Luke Rogers, who was, playing at Shrewsbury Town, and he was became a leading scorer and a New York Red Bull legend. Bradley Wright Phillips became a.
He was one of the first kind of.
Luke,
wasn't like a
Luke
headline
Rogers,
name, but still.
And Bradley, was in around like Doncaster and teams like that in the UK, like League 2, League 3. Giles Barnes is another one who went and played really well and became a DP at Houston Dynamo. So these players individually can come over, and maybe they couldn't go and play in the Premier League, but they can come over here and play high level. Likewise, our players could probably go over there and play in a team. If I was mixing the leagues in terms of strength, the things that the English and Scottish teams would struggle with coming over to the US is the travel. And I think the things that the US teams going across the UK would be the level of play, how intense it is week in, week out, and it is Saturday, Tuesday. So it's the grind is tough.
Yeah. This is kind of, I guess, two-sided, because I want to hear your take just on Hayden and kind of what caught your eye. I know you've known him for a little while. What caught your eye with him, why you wanted to bring him in, but also with players coming from over there. Are there certain traits that you look for typically? Is it similar to your take on academy kids, where it's run, tackle, pass, head?
I think so. I think when you look at different regions of the world, you'll find pretty much a similar type of player across the board. If you're looking for your number 10, the more likelihood is it's going to come from Central South America sort of thing. If you're looking for your leadership, centre back, fighter, that's probably going to come from European leagues. You look at how well the Italian defenders defend, and all they want to do is defend. Chiellini, who went to LAFC. And then midfield players. If you want the creative one, you may be looking at Spain. If you want the box to box one, like Declan Rice and Bellingham. It seems to me that these countries produce through culture the type of player that they adopt. In relation to Hayden, I've known Hayden since he was 15, and what attracts you to Hayden is he is quick, strong, and provides a threat to the opponent both in attack and defence. And the ability for us to get him across here was just basically timing. We tried to get him in Orlando when I was at Orlando City. And it just so happened that this moment in time, his career was as not where he wanted it to be, and he looked at this opportunity as a chance to get back on track, and we're really pleased to take him.
In training this morning, there was one where he was he just glides sometimes. Like his running just looks a bit effortless, and his stride is so long that he covers a lot of ground in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. He's like, that's what I'm saying, and it's the old opinions of players is if they're good defensively, then they've not got to be good on the ball. If they're good at something, they've got to flow somewhere else. The kid's good at the majority of stuff, and he'll be a good player for us.
Yeah. I think most recent of the transfers was Brem Somaro, I believe, from the Canadian Premier League. How much of an eye have you kept on there, especially now that they're on national television, as you said at the weekend, and how did that one sort of come about?
I'm just going to keep calling him Brem.
Okay.
All right. If we just say it, so you can do the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I go back to strategic recruitment and plan. And, maybe doing things differently because, if we're saying one playoff game in 3 or 4 years, or whatever it is, or let's say I'll default to you on how many we've had. But if it's only one finishing the playoffs in the last 3, we have to do something differently because we need to get to the best we can be, and that would be that we have to spread the net for recruitment maybe a little bit wider, and there are good players in the USL League One now. Like I said, because the MLS Next Pro's gone a different direction. There's good players in the CPL, and it's getting an understanding of that. You know, they've got a really good business model, the CPL, where they've got to play 3,000 minutes for all the 21 and under players. So once they get to that age of 22, 23, then they either keep them on long-term contracts, which then the other players become, like Brem, maybe on the outside, and that's when you've got to go and get them. And to be fair, if you look at, because there is a couple of players up there that I've looked at that are, you know, that around that 20, 21 year, if they don't get sold, then it's something you look at in the next two years if they're still performing, that, you know, we make contact to try and get them, because if they've played that amount of football by the time they're 23, 24, they'll be good players. The thing with Brem is he's an international player for the team he was at. They went a different direction with ownership and manager, head coach. But I'd seen him play, you know, multiple times, and I always thought he was a good player. He's very eye-catching when you see him. You know, he's got a really good, like you said, you know, he glides around the pitch. He's got really good knowledge of the game, and he stands in the right positions and makes the right decisions more often than not. So I'm really pleased we got that one as well, because that provides us more strength going into the last few games of the season.
He's coming into a midfield that, when it's healthy, is one of the best in the league already. And it was cool seeing him work with Aiden and Jack and Cam and Gibbo today in training. So how do you feel about that group right now, and how good is it that they'll be able to train with and against each other, you know, day in, day out?
Yeah, good. Yeah, you know, and you know, we're in a good spot. So we need to now perform, and obviously with that, you know, the deadline is for players going out as well. You know, I'm sure that teams will be interested in a couple of our players, you know, over the next few days, and if we keep them all, then great. If we don't, and we have to let, you know, one or two go because of, you know, numbers, then that's okay as well. You know, because but I think the standards that we've got in training are really high, so it wouldn't surprise me if somebody was, you know, knocking on the door to maybe take one or two of ours. I think the loan spell, and we got to see that this month for both Max and Ethan, has been really good for him. Max came back, unfortunately got injured. Ethan came back, and when he came on the field in Vegas, I thought he was excellent. And that's another midfield player that, you know, that we look forward to working with, because he's got some attributes that are really good, and he's getting good game time down at Huntsville.
One of the things I think is definitely different between MLS and USL is the squad size. And I think that, you know, we're kind of seeing now that this is one of the, at least that I can remember, one of the better, like, you know, if you look at all of the next guys up, it's probably the best level there in terms of like who you might bring in as subs, depth, you know, as basically depth.
Yeah.
Because I think in other seasons it might have been, you know, these are trades later in the season, but instead now we're bringing guys in just as solo transactions. How much is that going to help going into this home stretch of the season?
Yeah, it's going to help massively, and we've got to follow the trend. Louisville's just signed Goodrum for a record transfer fee, and we'll know what salary he's getting. So they've already got what you would say the best striker in the league in Harris, and then they go and sign probably the second best one in Goodrum and sit him on the bench. So in terms of, you know, us having a great strength in depth, what we've got to be careful of, you know, and again, I go back to it, that we've got to spread the net wider and have a look wider, because sometimes we look at just what we've got and we don't really understand what everybody else is doing. And that can be a mistake. And that's where you can fall behind, because it's not just us going, oh yeah, we've signed another player. You know, when Louisville have the ability to go and pay a record transfer fee and pay a good chunk of money for salary, that puts everybody else on alert in the league. And I think then they also brought back their old fullback from Belgium, I believe. So I'm presuming that he's going to challenge the other three wing backs that they've got in that position. And
I think one made team of the week this week as a winger. Wilson Jansen was on team of the week. I don't know where he plays anymore, but he's scoring a lot of goals from wherever he does.
So you've got to, you know, we talk about ours being one of the best midfield league group in the league, let's not disrespect the other players in the league.
Yeah. Just a word on Dougie getting called up again to Honduras. At every time that happens, as much as it's happening a lot for him lately, but it's still, an accomplishment for him every time it happens.
Yeah, it's great for him. He takes a lot of pride in it as well. So I'm pleased for him. Disappointed that we don't get the chance to have him with us. But like I said earlier on, that's why we play him when we have him, and we know that he's going to go away, and hopefully he stays healthy and comes back with that confidence of being an international player and drags that into the last few games of the season. So, really pleased for him because it's a great honour to play international football.
Yeah. Last one for you here before we sign off. The next, I think, 3-4 games are all teams below the playoff line before a really tough run-in, last 5 games. How crucial are these ones coming up that you kind of take care of the teams that are below in the table? You have to,
and like any point at this stage is a good point because of the points we've gathered prior to this. We're not in a situation where we're going, we need to win, which other clubs are. But we know that this month is crucial for us, especially with the 2 home games. And like I said to you about Pittsburgh, if we win them 2 home games, they've got to get 11 points to get above us at 7. And that's a tough ask. That's, like I said, 3 wins, 2 draws out of 7 games. 5 positive results is what you're looking for. We also know that when Pittsburgh are playing them games, because they are a good team, this weekend I think they're playing against Rhode Island. So if we take care of business, we might end up back in 4th again. Yeah. So it's going to be chop and change in that top part of the. I think the 3 that are the top 3 will stay the top 3. Then it's about where do the rest finish, and that rest goes all the way down to North Carolina. I think, unfortunately, this season, I think Miami's probably dealt with too much this year to be able to have a run at it. And then everybody else is in it. So us taking care of business at home, and then the 2 games are Hartford and North Carolina, who are below us. I think we've really got to have a good month. Yeah. Well, best of luck. Thank you. And hope it happens. Anything else before we sign off that I'm forgetting? I would just say that, regarding looking at the fixtures and looking at the 2 home games, I would like invite everybody to get down and support us. It's really important that we get as many people through the gate as possible to try and help us get over the line. And I do want to pay credit to the supporters at the weekend who stuck with us through a really, really tough game. And when they get a man sent off, everyone might think it becomes easier. And it wasn't the case for us on this occasion. But the supporters who stuck with us, and I encourage as many people to come as possible for the next 2 games, because them ones who stuck with us at the weekend, near enough, Romario's free kick was a good free kick, but near enough blew the ball back into the back of the net for us to get a point. And I'm sure they enjoyed themselves when that goal went in, to leave us with a good atmosphere going into the next 2 home games. Yeah. Well, we hope to see as many people as possible. And that'll do it for Episode 7 of the Indy 11 Coaches Show, presented by your local Indiana Ford dealers. Another shout-out to 450 North, getting us ready for fall with their Oktoberfest. Thanks for being our official beverage partner for today, and always on the Indy 11 Coaches Show. A shout-out to shop.indy11.com. If you're disappointed you didn't get any Open Cup merch, I think you can still go to the shop.indy11.com and find some as well, along with polos like this and many other things. Thanks for tuning in this time, and we'll see you next time.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Be sure to like and follow this podcast and check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network. To watch the video version of this podcast, subscribe to the Indy 11 YouTube channel.